Are you ready to turn your successful business into the next great franchise brand? Hi, I'm Todd Abraham, franchise consultant with Franchise Marketing Systems, the #1 franchise consulting company in America and Canada. If you've ever thought about franchising your business, now's the time to explore the possibilities. And my consulting services are completely free to any entrepreneur looking to create a franchise from their proven business model. At Franchise Marketing Systems, we handle everything: your franchise disclosure document, federal trademark filing, franchise information website, business plan, and so much more. And the best part, we make it affordable, breaking project fees into 6 to 8 easy monthly installments. So before you take your business nationwide, get the expert guidance you deserve with no pressure and no upfront cost. Call Todd Abraham today at 423-381-0925 for your free consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Todd Abraham with Franchise Marketing Systems, your one-stop shop for everything franchising.
Got it. It's
There we
happening
go.
now.
All right, welcome everybody to the Franchise Marketing Systems podcast. Today we are going across the northern border to the great country of Canada, and we are talking to Scott McCarthy and Shelley Berman, who have a world of experience in the franchising industry. And we had just a little bit of a technical hiccup getting together on camera, but here we are. And I thought we'd have a lot of fun and start off the podcast by having Scott and Shelley sing the national anthem for Canada, but I don't think they're going to agree to that.
Do you want the French version, the English version, the half and half version?
Yes, I would like you to sing it in Japanese, Scott, if you could.
Please, yes, thank you so much. I'm glad you asked me to do it in Japanese versus
So
English.
listen, I don't know which one of you is considered the chief spokesperson, but in the interest of keeping friends with both of you, I will say, Shelley, if you'll start and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background, and then we'll let Scott do the same thing. So take it away.
Actually, Scott is the famous one. He is the one who does all of the FMS speaking opportunities. He talks a couple of times every franchise expo that we attend. So he is the famous guy. I am behind the scenes girl. I've been privileged enough to even have been called that by one of our clients on an email, but I will not take offense.
That's cool.
So a little bit about my background. I actually, you can probably hear from the accent, was born in South Africa. And I worked for a global company by the name of Colgate-Palmolive. I worked for them for over a decade and had the most wonderful marketing and global marketing experience with them. And then my sort of midway through there, or through my career, I jumped over to the beautiful country of Canada, probably to the furthest northwest corner of the planet, to sunny, rainy Vancouver, and lived there for a couple of years, did a couple of marketing stints in the technology arena, and my heart called me back to basically packaged goods and franchise marketing. So here I am, 20-something years later in Toronto. I've worked for many large companies like Mars, like Cara Foods, and of course, not only have I got the classical marketing background, but a lot of working with the franchise side of the business too. And this has been an absolute fabulous intersection of bringing my knowledge and my background to our clients, both in the strategies behind how they evolve and also managing as their businesses unfold to this whole new dimension of franchising. So it's been a privilege to work with my partner, Scott, and the two of us did a lovely stint together, rolling out, Scott,
75.
75 restaurants over 3 years for a lovely Canadian brand called Mary Brown's Famous Chicken and Taters. And that is where the two of us got to work together and then took the leap to let's consult on our own. So here we are, and very proud to be part of the FMS family. So that is me in a nutshell, and I will hand it over to Scott, who has really a fantastic and wealth of franchise experience.
That's great.
Jeez.
So Scott, take it away, brother.
All right. I was fortunate enough in my younger days. I was a multi-unit Tim Horton franchisee in my early 20s for many years, and also had a franchise called Kelsey's, which is a roadhouse, very similar to a TGI Fridays in the U.S. if we were to relate. So I was a franchisee from the time I was 22 till about 37, and I decided to sell the Tims and the Kelseys. All was fun and great, but wanted to do the corporate life. End up getting my very first kind of job, actually having a boss in an office with a company called Sunoco. And my role was to put in the coffee and donut systems throughout the entire province of Ontario. So with a competitor called Country Style. So here I was back in the donut business, kind of, sort of, but that was really fun. I was there for about 6 years, and then got headhunted to McDonald's. And became a regional director at McDonald's for several years, and that was so great. I got to go to Chicago and to Hamburger U, and McDonald's is such a great company, so I learned so much. And then I got an opportunity to get out of food and work for a company called Rexall Medicine Shop, and I know there's medicine shops in the U.S. as well. And my role up here was the regional director of all the medicine shops here, opening them all up. So got out of food and now opening pharmacies. So that was really fun. I got headhunted again to work for a company called Luxottica, which you also have in the U.S., which is Pearle Vision and Lens Crafters. In the States, Pearle Vision is franchised, but up here in Canada, they were corporate. So I was brought on board to take that model and turn it into a franchise model. The existing ones, plus anything new coming about, was now going to be a franchise with Pearle Vision. So still today, they are doing that, which is terrific. And then I got headhunted to become vice president of Mary Brown's. And that was such a great company and so fun, very Canadian, originating in Newfoundland. There was about 50 stores when we joined. We had a great team, a great owner. About a year into kind of putting all the pieces into place, we were able then to start opening about 25 stores a year for the next 3 years. And then we accidentally bumped into some guy named Chris Connor at a franchise expo. And it was the truth. You know, the strange thing about the story is that we were walking around the franchise expo that weekend, just Shelly and I just seeing what's out there for fun. And there was this booth called Mr. Drywall. And I stopped in the hallway, and there is a young blonde guy and an older gentleman, both in a suit. And I said to Shelly, "Are you kidding me? We can franchise drywall?" And I guess with me just with my face and just staring at the booth, Chris came up and said, "Hi, what brings you to the show?" And so we kind of, gave him our background and just said, "We're just shocked about this." And he says, "Oh no, it's a great business," and chatted about it. And he said, "If you're ever interested down the road that you'd like to, change your career, I really don't have a face up here in Canada. And if you and Shelly would be interested to kind of take over the FMS Canada and be here and be at the shows and all of that, we can, that would be terrific, And so we decided to do something scary and quit our VP jobs and scare our families and jump on board with Chris and go to the first franchise expo in January. And it was fantastic. And we had a great time. And ever since then, here we are 5 years later, franchised nearly 200 businesses now, and it's just been great. So that's kind of our little background and cute story, how we met Chris Connor.
Well, what's cool about that now, based on what you guys did in the past, is you get now to work with a whole variety of different companies. And of course, take all that amazing experience that you have, combined, and then really just make FMS, the number one company in Canada for developing companies into franchises. So tell me some differences, or if there's a lot of difference between, say, creating a franchise in Canada as opposed to creating a franchise in the US. Is there a lot of differences there?
No, there's none at all from an operations standpoint, from how you grow the business, the foundations of it, all of those pieces. The only thing that's different is the legal documents, the franchise disclosure document and the franchise agreement. The templates are a little different in Canada than in the US. basically same type of items that need to be disclosed, but how they need to be disclosed in the way they are. And of course, everything up here on the disclosure says GST and HST and the Employment Standards Act of the provinces. So all of that wording is in our disclosures. Where in the States, you've got, IRS and states and state taxes and all those kind of words. So we have to just do that. But as far as building the business, it's the same foundations as everybody else. And funnily enough, our Canadian franchisors up here, their dream is to go to the US. They want to franchise here, be successful, and then they're calling us going, now we want to go to the US. What does that look like? And so it's exciting that they want to really do that. And also we do have some US franchisors that Chris will reach out to me and say, we have some people here that want to come to Canada. I'm sending them over to you to do your thing. So it's great that both countries pretty much have the same disclosure laws, the same rules, the same processes, and can share and allow people to grow their business throughout North America, which is great.
Right. And we were talking before the interview here, and you were telling me that a good portion of the FMS team actually is in Canada that does work for both the U.S. and the Canadian arms of FMS. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we use a couple of great members in the FMS team when we do for the franchise modeling process, which is the first stage in the game. Tim Connor, who is incredible in the US, just is fantastic with operations manuals. So he's our guru. We use him because he's the man. But when we come up to the legal documents, we have a legal team up here that we use. And when it comes to the marketing pieces, and this is something Shelley can speak about, we do have a team of about 15 people here in Canada for the marketing agency. And we're a full-blown marketing agency. And part of the process is website design, brochures, presentations, application forms. So when we get to that side of the business here in Canada, we take that over, and Shelley heads that all up with that. So it's fantastic that we get to both kind of share a little bit of the U.S. experience, and the team here in Canada gets to do that, and people feel good. The Canadians here, they want to make sure, am I dealing with people from Canada? And we go, yes. So that's been a good thing for us, and they feel good about that. And Shelley can certainly speak more about the marketing pieces since she heads it up.
Well, on a side note, now that you called Tim a guru, I'm going to have to find some kind of anti-ego deflation drug, to bring him back down to the planet Earth,
It hasn't been invented yet.
But I can tell you, as a franchisor with FMS, I was blown away by the details and the professionalism of the operations manual, and wasn't even aware until we started going through the process that FMS was going to do an operations manual for us. But I'm telling you, every step of the way, everything, I mean, the communication was spot on. The degree of the excellency of everything that was done creative wise, the sales brochure, the operations manual, everything was just incredibly professional. So Shelley, you are the behind the scenes marketing. We can call you a guru because I imagine that you've got enough experience to be counted that. So tell us about what you do specifically in your area of expertise.
So I kind of feel that what we bring to the table, and Scott was talking about it earlier, and I'll just recap it because I think we were off mic when he was talking about it. A lot of our franchisors come through the process with us, and besides giving them the franchise marketing bundle, which we have the most creative, ingenious team that does, as Scott was saying, the websites, the brochures, all the, I call it the gadgets and the paraphernalia that any company would need to start marketing themselves. But the biggest hurdle for any new franchisor is, well, how do I do this? How do I find my first franchisees? How do I tackle the process? What's in it now? And, Scott and I feel very proud about what we're able to bring to the table. We don't just finish the franchise development process with them and throw them to the wind and say, have a lovely time, good luck on your franchising journey. We're here to do two things with them. Quick sidebar in terms of process. We will help them with their initial interviews with candidates. We role model for them. We'll help them through pretty much the entire process. But the other side of the coin really is, well, how do I find my franchisees? And this is where my expertise together with the team comes in terms of understanding, first of all, who their franchise candidates could possibly be, and whether they have people in front of them or whether they need to cast the net wider to find those franchisees. So often there's a business, and the clients of that business are very in tune with who they are, what they offer, and many of those, what we call organic leads, are right there staring them in the face. And that's a very easy sell. We'll put out some kind of email blast or press release, a small communication on their regular website, and it's easy to reel them in. On the other side, there are many companies who need to, go wider in their scope to find their franchisees. And this is where our team will work in really engineering some digital marketing campaigns for them. And, without it sounding like the buzzword of the day, this is really where people get their literature these days. They sit on their phones. AI is very much up there these days. So if they've been saying the franchising word, they probably will get dished up a lovely ad from FMS, which will say something like franchise your business, and they'll click on it. So we'll get the franchisor who's interested, but then there's a whole pool of people who are looking to buy a franchise. So that's the piece specifically that we will engineer for our clients. So whether it's a cleaning company, a mobile dog grooming company, a stunt driving company, a senior care, care company, et cetera, the whole gamut of anything you can imagine, we can create and specifically target those campaigns to potential franchisees. So that's sort of the beauty of us being able to give that 360-degree perspective to our franchisors, help them get through the process, and then help them really get through the process where it counts in terms of those franchisees.
That's great. One of the most powerful statements that I heard from a franchisor of a client of FMS is when he was getting ready to begin to franchise his business, he said, "I didn't know what I didn't know." And I have used that quite a few times because that's exactly the way I felt when I started to look to franchise Heartbeat Christian News. Is I didn't know what I didn't know. And one thing that I love about FMS, both, US and Canada, is the fact that they do know, but they also have a world of experience in every aspect of it. But you can be sure, like on the last podcast where I talked about safety in hiring FMS, is they're going to do it with honesty, integrity, with positivity, and in a timely manner, and communicate every step of the way. So is there any noticeable difference in franchises in Canada or the US legally that somebody in Canada would need to know before they come to FMS?
Scott, I think, will you tackle this one because it's really about understanding what you need for those various states and disclosures, et cetera. So I'll let you jump in here.
Legally, yeah, the documents that we put together are for all of Canada, for all the provinces. We are a little different than the states. I think there's 32 states where you actually have to register the FDD in the US, and then there's also some where you actually have to open a corporation in that state. Then there's an audit of your financials in some of those 32 states. Here in Canada, we don't have any of that. All the provinces are open in that regards. There's no registration fees. There are 6 provinces here where we have to put what we call certificates in them. Nothing to do with the franchisor from our end, from our legal team, just stating that certain points have been disclosed in these documents, and we include that in all of our legal documents, no matter where, even if someone says, oh, I just want a franchise in Ontario, we give them legal documents that allows them to process in all of Canada, in all the provinces. So that's, even though we have some provinces where we don't need to disclose, we tell everyone we're going to disclose those people anyways. It's just great for them to know what the relationship's all about and what the expectations are. So really, there's nothing different for people from the US to come to Canada. It's a little easier actually, versus, as I mentioned, going to the States. There's, I think, 32 states where we have to kind of go through some loopholes, and some of those states do take a few months to get back to us in regards to approving the FDD. So here, that's not the case. So we are able to move things a little quicker. And so that's kind of a nice advantage. But that's one of the pieces that we speak to people that say that when they want to go to the U.S. is, depending on where you want to go, it could be months before we could, kind of get going down there. So that's the only piece.
So, how many franchise shows in Canada would you say that you two attend annually?
We've been doing all of them. So we've got Halifax and Ottawa. We don't do Montreal and Quebec just because Shelley and I don't speak French, so we don't want to. We don't want to run into that. But Ontario, Toronto has two a year, so we do both of those. Then there is Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and then every second year they also have sometimes in Winnipeg and Regina, Saskatchewan. So we pretty much hit all the provinces every year. I mean, every 2 years for sure, when we get those ones that just do it every second year. So we do several of them, which is so fun, and we
Oh
get to
yeah.
keynote
So
speak.
I'm getting ready to go do my first franchise show here, I think in late September, Lord willing. Now I've done the trade shows before for different companies, but I've never done it with FMS. I'm very excited about that because I'm a people person. And when I first met Chris, I was in a three-piece suit with a red tie on. And one of the last things he said to me, he said, well, he said, you surely don't disappoint in first impressions.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone's very casual there. They walk around in Toronto, as an example, there's 5,000 people that come through the doors on the weekend. In
Wow.
Vancouver, there's about 3,500. In Edmonton and Calgary, nearly 2,000. And there's, say also in New Brunswick and Halifax, they're a little smaller, maybe about 1,000 people approximately. But if you think about even Toronto, 5,000 people going up and down those aisles, and Vancouver with 3,500. Everyone is just there in whatever attire. They're just looking to get some information and talk to you. And sometimes it's best just to be dressed like a normal, human being, and not be intimidated, and just dress and be yourself, and have a great conversation with these people. But it's fun. One of the things we do, we're talking about the FMS process and some of those. What do we do is, we have franchisors that'll be at these expos, sometimes 10, 12, 15. It's their very first time at the booth. Some of them it's not their first time. But we put together this cheat sheet. I frequently ask questions. Shelley and I kind of know the 10, 11 questions that these franchisors, like yourself being at the booth, what am I going to be asked? And so we kind of know what it is. And then we put the answers. And so we send that off to everybody, which we just finished doing, just reviewing it with them, so that when they're at the booth, when these questions come up, they're able to kind of look at the notes here and give them the right answers, and take that pressure off. And then we have a little powwow beforehand too. We get there a little earlier in the mornings and just, meet everybody, make sure their booth is working and doing a good job and they're all okay, and last minute coaching. And then we tell everybody too, if somebody starts asking you some questions that you're just not sure about, our booth is just, 2 aisles over, send them over to us and tell them we're the people that franchised you, and introduce themselves, and we'll answer any questions that they have. So they're fun for us. We really enjoy doing that. And they're super excited. As as a franchisor, it's a big deal. They're pumped up, they're excited, they're nervous. But it's really great when franchisors can see how people are actually interested in something that they personally built, whether it started in their garage or in their basement or just an idea in their head. And now they're at this franchise expo with 100 people lined up saying, send me some information on this business. So for us, I talk about this all the time, Shelley and I I take all the first calls, to all the leads, and I remember those conversations all the way to them saying yes and signing on with us, all the way to them having their very first franchise. And every time I'm in their first franchise, I say, I remember how whenever it was when you first called me and said, I want to franchise my business. How does this work? We're nervous. We're scared. How does this all happen? To here you are. I'm standing in your very first franchise that you've gone through the whole process. So Shelly and I kind of get that. I'm calling about franchising a business all the way to standing in their very first franchise. And so we get to see that journey. And I think that's the most exciting part for me and for Shelly too, is to watch that.
Yeah, like parents with their newborn, it's like, your baby's so cute.
Right. That's right. That's exactly what it is, getting a new puppy. Yeah.
So now, does Franchise Marketing Systems have a dedicated website for Canada operations? And what is that?
We do. It's fmsfranchise.ca.
.ca. Okay, so that's the only difference is the extension.
Yeah, that's it.
And then, so what is the best way for someone, a potential franchisor in Canada, to get in touch with you? You guys want to share your contact information with them?
For sure. The phone number, they can reach me personally at 416-452-8532. I'm out of Toronto. And email is scott.mccarthy@fmsfranchise.com. And Shelly is shelly.berman@fmsfranchise.com. If you go to our website, the fmsfranchise.ca, my phone number is on every single page. My email and Shelly's email is on every single page. So if you happen to miss this from, just me speaking too fast with that, just go to the website and our info's there to connect with us.
That's cool. So, Shelly, tell us about, we know that there's much included when a franchisor signs on with FMS in that initial fee, but there's other marketing services that we provide outside of that. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, for sure. Many a time, Scott, as he said, is the first point of contact. Will, make a connection. And one of the first things they say is, well, I'm not quite ready. And that can mean multiple things. And no business is ever really ready because it's never going to be perfect. So we've got a little bit of hand holding to do up front. And a lot of franchisors are actually more ready than they think. But regardless, that's one of the beauties of franchising, is that we help you get ready and take what you've got as a phenomenal base and cascade you onto the next level. But as part of that, sometimes we find logos are not up to par. They don't have a website. They don't really have anything to help the company per se have a real brand identity or brand persona. And so we work with our franchisors, besides the fact that they are business savvy. Sometimes they are just incredibly focused on pushing the business along, don't really understand or recognize the need for that other dimension. And that's where we jump in and we help them create a logo or refine a logo. We help them create a brand persona, and then that feeds through everything. Oftentimes, a franchisor will not even have a really functioning consumer website, let alone a franchise website. So we'll jump in and we'll create that as well. And we make sure that everything looks and feels the same. So they kind of get, how can I say, top-notch creativity, brand strategy, and sort of copy-related services built not only for their franchise development, but built so that they can evolve as a corporate entity. The other piece that we really work hard at with our franchisors is something small but really important, and that is called trademarking. So many companies come to us and that they've got a name that's either very generic, they've got a brand identity that sometimes may include the Canadian maple leaf, which legally is not allowed. They have all kinds of things that may become hurdles for them to actually get a trademark. And it is essential to give the franchisee confidence that they have signed up with a brand where the name and the identity of the brand are solid and owned by the franchisor. So although that has a legal dimension to it, and we're aligned with a great group of consultants to do the trademarking piece, we work on, again, finessing the identity and sometimes the name of the company in order that they can be trademarked and stand out as a distinctive franchisor.
That's great. Yeah, so that is one of the things. Another thing that surprised me is when FMS told me, it's like, we're going to help you get a trademark. And I was like, wow, I never dreamed I'd have a trademark, but that's very cool. Um, this has been a lot of fun. Any closing comments before we wrap up here? I guess, Shelley, since you were the one just doing the talking, just tell us any closing comments that you'd like any potential franchisors or franchisees who are looking to buy a franchise with one of the franchises that we have helped in Canada. What would you say to them?
I would say, don't feel nervous about taking that first step. It may seem daunting, but whether you're thinking of becoming a franchisor or equally a franchisee, we will give you that from the heart perspective. We will hold your hand through both processes. And Scott will always tell you, it doesn't matter what province you live in Canada or what time zone it is, we're here. Our phones are always on. And we look forward to dealing with the broad spectrum of phenomenal, businesses that exist within Canada, and look forward to the growth with anybody who wants to work with us.
That's awesome. Mr. Scott McCarthy, how about yourself? What would you like to tell those same franchisors and franchisees?
Yeah, as a franchisor, you get to start working on your business versus in your business. Right now, if you have a business and you're working in it, and maybe you have one, two, three locations, all corporate, when you start becoming a franchisor, you get to work on what's next. What can we be doing? You're looking ahead, and that's the fun part of it, is how do I take this brand to the next level? Because you now have franchisees that are running the day-to-day operations as per your standards, which allows you to now work on the business. What's next for this particular brand? And that's a really fun piece, but it also allows you to evolve the brand, and franchisees expect it as well. So that's the kind of fun. The other fun thing about franchising is you are dealing with putting together a need that's in the market, and you get to share this across an entire country. And that is really fun when you can see that you're actually helping a need that's going on, and being able to share your knowledge and your expertise right across an entire country is a really big deal. One of the last things we get a lot of phone calls about is people say, I have this great idea and I want to franchise it. I don't want to tell anyone because I want to franchise it right away. And I know it sounds great, but unfortunately with franchising, one of the great things about it is that it's a proof of concept. It's been up, it's been running, it's profitable. You've gone through the bumps and bruises, the what to do, what not to do. And now you're presenting, here's how you do it, here's how you succeed at it, follow me, this is how you do it. So we kind of have to have those in place. So I do get a lot of people telling me, I got this idea, but I need to keep it quiet and I want to franchise it right away. So we can't do that. And if you think about it from the other standpoint, if you were going to buy a franchise, would you want one where the guy says, or the person says, it's in my head, it hasn't been proven yet, but it's going to be really good, and it's only going to cost, $300,000. Are you in? Probably not, right? So I think you'd probably go with a concept that is, I think I'll go to the one over here that's, got a bunch of units and all of those. So I do. It's one of the first questions I ask when I'm presenting how to franchise your business. How many people have an idea in their head and you're here because they want to franchise it? About a third of them put up their hand, right? And so it's always fun. But that's my closing remarks, and hopefully I get to hear from anybody, and Shelley and I can say we heard you on the podcast, and maybe one day we'll be able to stand in your franchise as well. Looking forward to it.
That's cool. Yeah, and I want to bring that point out. That's one of the awesome things about FMS is that anybody, like Scott was saying, that comes to them and says, hey, I've got a business, I want to franchise it, or hey, I've got a concept that would be great. Even if it is an existing business, FMS is going to give you a very honest, straightforward analysis, free analysis of your business, and let you know if you're ready, or if you're not, they will let you know in a very positive manner the things that you need to get fixed in order to become a franchise. Because one of the great aspects of being a client with Franchise Marketing Systems is that once Scott and Shelly and the whole team get done creating a very professional and duplicatable franchise model out of your business, they're going to help you sell those franchises. And that to me is just fantastic. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. And
Yeah, us too.
this is my first podcast. I've done one with one of the clients from South Africa, who has a men's jewelry business. And so this would be my second one that would be out of country, I guess. But appreciate your time. And again, it's fmsfranchise.ca is the website, and Scott and Shelly's contact information, as he was saying, is on every page. So as we close, thank you again for listening to the Franchise Marketing System podcast on franchiseradio.net. My name is Todd Abraham, and until next time, take care. Are you ready to turn your successful business into the next great franchise brand? Hi, I'm Todd Abraham, franchise consultant with Franchise Marketing Systems, the #1 franchise consulting company in America and Canada. If you've ever thought about franchising your business, now's the time to explore the possibilities. And my consulting services are completely free to any entrepreneur looking to create a franchise from their proven business model. At Franchise Marketing Systems, we handle everything: your franchise disclosure document, federal trademark filing, franchise information website, business plan, and so much more. And the best part, we make it affordable, breaking project fees into 6 to 8 easy monthly installments. So before you take your business nationwide, get the expert guidance you deserve with no pressure and no upfront cost. Call Todd Abraham today at 423-381-0925 for your free consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Todd Abraham with Franchise Marketing Systems, your one-stop shop for everything franchising.